Little,
Live.
little bit of a bumper.
Hey,
Yeah.
Andy, we're live.
My gosh. You do this like we're supposed to be like uber professionals, and then
Oh
we
yeah,
just can't stop talking. We can't stop
really.
talking. I think it was compared to
We're lifting veils here. This is fantastic. Oh, I've got to go on do not disturb because otherwise I'm going to get my thing pinging all the time.
everybody disturbs you.
Yeah, I'm just disturbed in general.
In general, I don't want to say like that, but I just wanted to kind of like
You're pretty disturbed.
hey everybody, how are we? Isn't this great?
I know.
We realized as we were about to go live, like we're missing like
important, like the transits.
like one, like as in like we're talking about everything but today. And by the way, we here at More Than a Media are flying our flag at half mast because of the burial of Jimmy Carter. We will maintain that for another 2 weeks after his burial, which is tradition, even if the current incoming president doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that he needs to honor people one way or the other. Either he's going to be forced to honor him or he will be cast out, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because, quite frankly, he doesn't really pay attention to anyone, which is why he is making skullduggery relationships and talking about taking over, let's see, Denmark, Panama, Canada. Like, we're not even in office yet.
He doesn't realize that Greenland is actually white. It's covered in snow and ice.
Yeah, but he wants to know, like, don't you know he's like Veruca Salt?
Does he want to build a golf course on Greenland? Because it's not green, it's snow, icebergs, white, Eskimos, polar bears.
At no way, shape, or form can you accuse him of not being like unintelligibly dumb. Because he doesn't understand it. He didn't do briefings for 4 years from, CIA and FBI, but now he thinks that he's like God's gift to knowledge. And I'll tell you what this is. I mean, we'll dive into the astrology. By the way, I have to upload this, so this is going to take just a second. But, with the...
we must try and keep our bias out of it, Brandon, because we're just going to get pieces, aren't we?
I love you. It's not about bias. What it is as much as I can hear somebody say bias, the part of it is that I'm opinionated because it affects me, and I'm coming at it from an educated standpoint. You might not like my opinion, but you can't take away the fact that I'm putting in the work to try and understand it. But this, Jimmy Carter was so many things that we can always talk about on topic. Jimmy Carter was a peacekeeper. Jimmy Carter was someone that...
I'm just saying hello to everyone.
Oh, hello, everyone. He's trying to be this kind of like Johnny on the spot hero and thinking like, if I take over Panama, I'll make it right. If I take over Canada, I'll protect you. Canada doesn't need protection. Greenland doesn't need exploration. Somebody told him along the way, if you want to become famous, do something like the Louisiana Purchase or the Alaskan Seward Folly, whatever. And that's what he's working on, which is why he didn't care how he got in, which is why he made a deal with the devil, aka Elon. And it's horrible. First of all, Penny, how are you?
How am I? I have to say, it's the end of the day for me, and I have had an incredibly busy week as well. So I've had a busy day, a busy few days. I got my 5th cat to the vet on Monday for his pet passport because in case anyone is not aware yet, because I've announced it all over YouTube, I'm moving back to the UK.
I have shared with you my thoughts on that.
Yes.
It's positive. It's very positive. It is also, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, well, nothing really. I've just got to, Iggy, my ginger pussy fluff ball, needs about 5 more days until his vaccinations are, what? Did I say something?
You said nothing.
Okay. So he's got to, his vaccinations have got to be sort of set in him before his. I know exactly what you're saying, and I'm not going to rise to the bait. And I probably threw it in because I shouldn't have thrown it in. Because anyway, how am I? How am I? I'm actually full of energy. So even though I'm tired, I'm actually full of
Hmm.
energy. And the energy, I don't know whether it's Mars in Cancer, because Mars is in Cancer in my 12th house, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm just totally wound up all the time. I just can't
Yeah.
calm down. I don't know if anyone else feels like that. Let me know, anyone, because I just I'm buzzing. I'm
I
just
feel I feel very activated.
okay.
I feel very activated. I mean, having my natal Mars and Capricorn and having Mars go back into opposition, even though it never quite gets to a full opposition, this Cancerian Mars is going to act on my Capricorn Mars. It's really drawing me out. Now, I feel a little bit in the mud, but I
Mhm.
feel activated at the same time. So it's kind of like I might not be successful. Like, for instance, I've got like three things, working on the board, and it's like I'm getting things done, but it's not necessarily optimum. And it's not a performance thing. It's more of a R. Instead of being at place A, I'm getting to place B, which is fine. Place B is fine, but it's not necessarily, everything under the sun that I would have wanted in, but it's okay. So I've gotten some wins in this as well. And by the way, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be in Austin. Those of you in Texas, please pay attention to my webpage. I have a couple of more announcements later on, probably tomorrow morning, of some work down there. I've got some work down there. I've got some business down there. I'm going to be at a place called Nature's Treasure in Austin. They've just made this transformation into a larger space, into an auditorium space, and they want me to be part of their opening weekend. So I'm going to be down there for that. Follow them because they also do shipping. So if you're into the crystal thing, check them out. Nature's Treasure. But yeah, I have noticed too that the political landscape, here in the U.S., those we post election, everybody's looking at each other, going, "What the hell just happened? Like, how did we just elect a felon?" By the way, on Monday he goes to court to get his sentencing. He will officially be a felon on Monday.
I thought he was trying to defer it again. Didn't he go to another high court?
He's so full of shit. So, by the way, if this ever goes to appeal, literally, the courthouse is down the road from me. Oh yeah, because I'm in Albany. I'm in upstate New York. That's the state capital. So his stuff down in Manhattan will get transferred up here because this is where the Court of Appeals is. And in New York State, the Court of Appeals is the highest court of New York State before it will go to the Supreme Court. Again, all of this is nonsense. All of this is nonsense. And the judge is literally doing him a favor, saying, "Listen, we're going to let you be president. We're not going to have you serve time. We're not going to have you serve reprimand, all of that other stuff. And basically, though, we're still going to call you a felon. We're going to process it through and say there's no time being served. He has to pay the fines. Have a good day." Anybody else on the face of the planet, or I should say 99.9999% of anyone, would take that and run because that's a win on every day of the week.
Yeah.
But to him, because he's being told he's been wrong, it is 100% his crybaby mentality that's going to basically attack everybody that's involved, and the biased Judge Mershon, and the prosecutors, the this, the that. He is the biggest child on the face of the earth, so of course he makes childish decisions, like me and my bestie Elon are going to go run the government for you. And it's a recipe for disaster. We are in disaster central here with this. Is there a purpose? We can look at this as a spiritual thing for us to not rely on the government anymore. But butts in the seats, we're looking at this going, this isn't okay. This is somebody that doesn't hold themselves accountable. This is somebody that doesn't
Mm.
have the best interest of everybody in mind, which is a core belief system of our presidency. That should be the first thing you are able to do, is provide logic, common sense, and safety for our citizens. And it's not happening. And you're feeling it around the world.
Yeah.
We're seeing it in Britain. We're seeing it in Canada. What about Malta? Like, how far does this reach? Like, does the Maltese government go, we've got to have a plan?
They may have something to say about Panama because we had a big scandal here a few years ago about Panama and money being laundered there.
The plot thickens, huh?
By the Maltese government at the time.
So, and then of
Hang
course
on,
Britain.
we've
We're going to look at some charts here.
probably just got on a hit list.
Whatever. You know what? Be honored by it. Like, this is something people have been warning me ever since I've gotten more political on my channel. People have been like, "Aren't you worried? Shouldn't you be worried about those? Shouldn't you be whatever?" Um, I am probably in the same bracket as anyone else in this country, in this world, even though I'm being outspoken, and even though I'm being critical, and even though I'm using my brain, which is that's really what they're up against.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they ran a statistic about the threshold in which they might prosecute, and they basically came right down to everything from quote unquote tax fraud, which is ironic because that's the thing you won't admit to. Um, that mistakes on your tax form, which is self-descriptive. So we file our taxes like you're quote unquote have to, but you also don't have to. Nobody knocks on your door and says you didn't do it until they think you owe them money, which is a
Mm,
whole other thing. But
mm,
they created this threshold and basically explained that about 72% of the entire country is doing something illegal. We're not even getting into you breaking a traffic law. We're not
mm,
getting into you doing 45 and a 40. This is like this is Gestapo level. So I'm not worried about it because they're going to come after all of us anyways, based on what they're saying. We just have to be strong enough to kind of stand up in our own truth.
mm.
And we're going to look at some charts here in a second, but Europe, in particular, the UK, in Greenland is just nonsense. Like, why the hell do you want Greenland? You want Greenland because you want to say that you
Build a
conquered
golf
something.
course. So he can build a golf course. He doesn't realize it's white in the sense it's covered in snow and ice.
Well, he sent his son and he came back and he's like, Dad, it's white. It's white. It's all white. Dad, it's white. It's white. We need Greenland. Dad, we need Greenland. Dad, we need it. We need it. We need Greenland. It should be called Whiteland. Maybe we can call it Whiteland. We'll put Stephen Miller in charge. Like,
I want to answer some of the questions that are coming up because
sure.
a lot of you watching are asking about the energy of the moment, and I've just pulled up a quick transit chart because I think it's quite important that right at this moment the moon has just gone over Uranus, so we've got this moon Uranus kind of energy.
Are,
Right, so there you go. I've got one.
are you seeing what I did right there? Are you seeing what I
That is
did?
incredible. I'm just so impressed with your dexterity, Brandon. Um,
Right.
and I think what's also interesting is that we still are in the power of this Mars-Pluto opposition, and at this point, it's probably I think it's important to honor, mention, show huge respect to the devastation and apocalyptic conditions that are happening in California. Um, I don't think any of us saw that coming. Well, I don't know. Maybe people did, but isn't it the wrong time of year for that kind of
Mm,
disaster to unfold?
well, it's right before the rainy seasons and the Santa Ana winds have been. Remember a bunch of years ago, everybody talked about El Nino,
Yes, yes, yes,
and La
yes.
Nino. So this is kind of this goes under that category, but for whatever reason, we lost that Nino conversation in the Santa Anas and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um, when you think about it, these fires started as Mars went back into
Cancer.
Cancer. So that is a ruin of house and home. That is, or it could be. It
Yeah,
could
good
be a shakeup
point.
of house and home.
Yeah. No, that's a wonderful little bit of astrology actually, Brandon, because it's so simple. It just says it how it is.
And without the rain and without, I
Mm.
mean, everything in the everybody talks about how the ecology and whatever, and well, Florida although they've had more egregious storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, what have you, they're not affected by the average going from 87.3 a day to 88.1 a day. They just think it's a nice day. They don't
Yeah.
really kind of look at those ramifications. Southern California, though, in the Southwest in general, has been hit by such droughts that it is in turn really changing. On the flip side of this is something else interesting too. Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, has actually been seeing rainfall for the first time in centuries. So we're beginning to kind of like get this shift globally. And it does have everything to do with climate change because it is changing. Whether you want to blame humans or whether you want to blame corporations, whether you want to blame whatever, doesn't matter. It's changing. Let's acknowledge at least that there's a change. The climate deniers are a problem, and that's part and parcel because these are things. How could they have prevented all these fires?
Mm.
Trump has already started to blame Gavin Newsom, and Gavin Newsom's just like, don't be an ass. Like he's like, really? Well, I could have prevented that. Like it's well, your policies on restaurants and it has nothing to do with anything.
But, Brandon, the climate always changes on the planet. We've had ice ages, we've had flood ages, we've had tropical ages, so that the planet has its own cycles. And I think that what's happened in the last probably, well, let's just say actually only in the last probably 200-300 years, is that man has, and I use the word man deliberately, has ravaged the planet, is doing far too much mining, far too much kind of fossil fuel activity. We are raping the planet, and the planet is going through a process that it has already determined for itself to protect itself.
Yeah.
So it's going to change the climate so that it can control this parasite called human beings that live on it, so that it can clear the planet of some of these parasites. I know that sounds horrible, but I think that's what
Yeah.
the planet's doing. I don't know what you feel about that.
Well, what you're tapping into is the Gaia theory, which is, the Earth is going to cleanse itself. The Earth doesn't need humans. The humans need the Earth. So, if we're going to overstay our welcome, we better learn how to do the dishes. Like it's kind of like the idea that if you're not going to work copastatically with the Earth is going to be like, here's some wildfires, here's some earthquakes, here's some inclement weather for you. I mean, right now in upstate New York, it was 13 degrees when I got in my car this morning. 13 degrees. You know what that translates to?
That's Fahrenheit. Is that
Yeah,
Fahrenheit?
that's Fahrenheit. Yep.
I don't know what that is in centigrade because I work in centigrade. So that
It
must be minus something, something, something.
it's probably -4 or -5.
Okay. Okay.
So
That's
with
very,
that in mind,
yeah, that's very cold.
I think it's like I think it's something like 248 Kelvin. Like I mean, so, I see these things over the years. But one of the things that we're all being affected by it in one way or another, and it's not just cold. And by the way, is it unusual to be cold in January in upstate New York? No, but central New York is under like 4 feet of snow. That's
Wow.
the unusual thing. Like they have been getting slammed. Okay, so Kat's chiming in saying minus 10 degrees Celsius. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a really kind of important thing to this too. Like, but you think about the ego of the United States. Like, we need our Fahrenheit. We're the only country in the world that works in Fahrenheit.
Mm.
The only one that still uses the King's measures. And it's like, why do we do this? Why are we doing this? Well, it has to do with the ego. The other thing that you mentioned too is Uranus and the moon together. What do you think some of the emotional things that come out of that? The moon being emotional, Uranus being the
Yeah.
rebellion, if you will. What are some of the behaviors that you think we see?
It's also the awakener. Uranus is also the awakener, and I think that, and going back to sort of your first question, which was how are you, Penny? I'm I'm all over the place at the moment. I can be focused for a while, and then I'm getting distracted by the stuff that happens, whether it's on the world stage or whether it's personally, and just finding it hard to put it into context. And so, and it's like there are surprises at every turn, so that
Mhm.
so that one is, it's like I'm in a constant fight flight mode. Does that make sense? So I'm constantly, and if I do this, I'm looking at you. Yeah, that's it. So
Mhm. And if I do this, I'm looking at you. Ah, ah.
um, but in, I'm in a constant fight flight mode at the moment. Maybe
Mhm.
because I've made these decisions to return to the UK, which is a massive big decision.
Yeah.
You know, and coming back to the energy of the moment, I think that because we're coming up to this full moon in what, 5 days time, four
Mhm.
days time, and it's in Cancer, and it's conjunct Mars, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This is. Yeah. You're busy with this. Let me pull it up again. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Okay, well, I think that there's something about this full moon that it actually has some very good, some very helpful transits in it. But I just wonder, Lisa's asking me why am I moving? Because it's too cold here. I'm fed up with cold winters and very hot summers. I want to go back to central heating. That's not the only reason I'm going back. I'm going back because
No.
I want to go home. I want to be near my family. I've only got a small family, but I want to
So
be near them, you know.
let's set the record straight. Climate,
Mm-hmm.
family,
Mm-hmm.
Brandon.
Feeling. Brandon. Who's Brandon?
I might hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Hang on. Who's Brandon?
Yeah,
Who
I
are
don't. I don't know. It's not the same in the other view. Right now, you just look like you look like you're stammering home from the pub, is what it looks like. All right. So you know, even though that you're, I mean, we'll look at it in your own personal context. Your idea of moving as
you?
this full moon moves into
Cancer.
Cancer,
Mm.
it's going to be darn close to a conjunct of Mars, which will be a soothing energy. It will be kind of like okay, let's do this. What's best for everybody? Let's do
Yeah,
that connecting.
yeah.
Let's do this in a way that's going to be able to present the healing dynamics for people, right? And
Oh, I know what I could do if I'm in the UK, Brandon.
what's that?
I could visit you.
Oh, you mean like a New England tour towards the end of the year?
Who knows? Who knows?
Boston, New York.
Who knows?
That would be fun. That would be fun. Stay tuned, everybody. But it's also, for me, it's also like that kind of change. And don't forget the purpose of astrology and why we study it and why we pay attention to it. You're going to get ebbs and flows, and you've got to take the good, take the bad, take them all. And there you have astrology. And you begin to kind of like piece this together and you say, okay, well, on one side of it, Mother Earth is responding and basically saying Mars and Cancer is some wildfires and some homes are going to be destroyed.
Mm,
And then on the other side of it, when Mars and the moon get conjunct, this is going to be a soothing energy of having this emotional action and reaction to be able to say, like, this is what's best for me. This is
mm,
what's best for the people that I love. It
mm.
makes a lot of sense that we have this kind of organic rolling thing. And I think part of the reason why people have difficulty understanding astrology is because it's so fast moving. It is so fast moving. Like, Penny, we were just talking before and we're like, we feel underprepared. We're not underprepared. It's the nature of what we do. We can't overthink it because it's going to change by the time we talk about it.
Because it is a weather forecast. This is the thing. It's a cosmic weather forecast, and you can either listen to it or not. You don't have to take notice of whether it's going to rain today or be sunny.
Hmm.
But the thing is, understanding the cosmic weather energies, the way that the cosmos is going to unfold over the next, say, few days, can help us get a handle on what or how we manage our own lives in the areas of our life that we know. We don't need an astrology chart to tell us which areas of our lives are being affected
Yeah.
currently, because we just have to go, oh yeah, oh well, it's my work, or oh yes, it's my relationship, or it's where I live. And you know what I mean?
Well, it's overwhelming for some people because it's literally all of them at once.
Oh yes, oh
It's
yes.
it's literally that kind of aspect to it. And it's funny when we're seeing your comments. When Penny and I kind of have this week earmarked. I said, "So Trudeau just stepped down. When are we getting together?" And she's just like, "Bugger!" And I'm like stepping down, not getting a divorce. Like he's not on the free market yet. Penny, relax.
No, he's not my type actually.
He's not your type. You like him a little more like dussied up, don't you?
A
You
little,
like him a little.
little bit more rugged.
You like bearded men that let their
Yeah,
hair grow long.
bearded men with that are a little bit more rugged. Yeah.
I understand that. I can sit outside for a half hour. I'll come in looking really rugged. So that because it's rough out there, but it's also that is one of the effects of this. And I know we want to take a look at Elon and Trump together.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting because, and can I just give you the again more succinctly the backstory to why I thought this would be important to talk about. And first of all, I want to apologize to the people that were expecting me in Canada to talk about Canada today and Trudeau stepping down, but he stepped down, which was when I did the the live last Sunday. He hadn't stepped down, so it's all happened, sort of rather quickly. But I will look at a Canada map natal chart, I think is probably the best thing to do, and the current transits when I do my live this coming Sunday. However, in the
Yeah.
UK at the moment, let me tell you what's happening in the UK, because we have a bubbling scandal about child grooming, and with Asian gangs. I hope I'm allowed to say that. I never know with YouTube what you're allowed to say and what you're not
Well,
allowed to
You're
say.
you're reporting the news. You're reporting the news. So long as
Unfortunately,
you don't, so long as
so
you don't get salacious about
I'm only reporting what I've picked up from Sky News. Okay,
it.
so
Right.
basically, what has happened is Sir Keir Starmer, who is the current Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, used to be the chief prosecution barrister, or in charge of the chief prosecution service. And it is alleged that the Labour government that we have in power at the moment in the UK are covering up a big scandal about child sex grooming and all of that.
Um,
And so, in the meantime, you've got Nigel Farage, who has been around on the political scene for quite a long time. And Nigel Farage is the leader of what is called the Reform Party, that is now turned out to be the biggest, the second biggest party that we have currently in government. So Tories,
mm,
Conservatives have moved into third place, which is just extraordinary. And Nigel Farage, I think, is toning himself down from being too extreme in not being very woke, shall we put it that way, to
w-
making friends with people across the pond, in Mar-a-Lago, and people that were born in South Africa. And
I can pick this apart in 2.5 seconds when you're
okay,
ready.
go on, and then I'll tell you the transits for him because I think it's fascinating.
Well, his Pluto sitting
Mm,
on his ascending is going to be his projection of, hi, I'm doing the right thing. It also makes him very conservative, almost so to a myopic side of it. His
right.
sun in the eighth house is going to be, how does he manipulate people? Because you're going to have that aggression plus, the Scorpio house connected to that. You
Mm.
also have Jupiter sitting there as well. This guy really pushes the envelope to try and hurt people. And I also think that he manipulates a lot of things, but he presents like he's going to come in as a new way. He's in the middle of a Saturn return. Actually, he had a Saturn return probably 4 years ago, maybe.
Mm.
Um, give or take, was he 64? Okay, so
Uh,
he went through it about 2 years ago.
yeah.
And
Oh, really?
that being in the sixth house is going to be like he's going to promote and present stability, but he wants to rewrite the book on the regular. Um, that that's Sagittarius moon in the
Mm.
fourth house. How many times has he been divorced?
I don't know, actually. I don't know much about his private life.
Well, having Venus sitting conjunct to Algor at the 29-degree Anarech in the ninth, he's somebody
Uh-huh.
that probably, I mean, he's got a home wrecker all over him. He also has kind of like I want to get to your safety. I want to hurt your safety, and he wants that identity to that. So
Mhm.
just based on his chart, I don't know what his behavior is. He's going to be somebody that's going to want to mess with your solitude. He's going to want to get in your business. He's going to want to be your savior. He's going to come up and like punch your window in and say, "Oh, I have a window right here."
Mm. Mm. What's that?
So it's kind of,
Rich Cooper is saying Nigel is an ex-Nazi. Yeah, I think there is something about that. This,
mhm.
I think he's a, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think he's quite anti a lot of things.
That's a horrible thing. So what's
And,
your take on his involvement,
well,
with the
I
scandal
think,
plus with the new government?
yeah, he's got well, he's got very involved with Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and I don't quite know what all that's about, but I think Nigel Farage went over to see Donald Trump several months ago, um,
I
to
remember that.
him before I think he even won the election, and allegedly.
Allegedly. He won the election allegedly. Seriously though, that is a safety of not saying something until it's been proven. And I have taken to Donald Trump won the election allegedly. I've been saying that because nobody has actually been able to prove, oh, well, this one signed it and this one, whatever. We have never looked under the hood. We just
But I
have not looked under the hood.
I just want to say something about the just one transit that Nigel Farage is going to receive over the next 2 to 3 years. He's going to have Uranus going over his midheaven. This is going to push him out in the public arena in such a shocking and big way. And he is going to be absolutely freedom of speech. He's going to be rebellious. There's going to be, I mean, such big change he is going to bring to
Hmm.
the way he works. And
Hmm. Who,
I think
who, who else? Who else has that in his chart? Who's going through that right now? Let me think. Let me think. Oh, Donald Trump
that's the
is
one.
going through that exact same transit right now, isn't he?
Yeah, and Nigel Farage gets it a few years later or 2 years later, basically. So that's
Yeah,
Keir.
and
Now, we don't have an exact time of birth for Keir Starmer. The funny thing is, when I first looked at
mm,
Keir Starmer's chart, I thought, well, there's nothing there. And actually, that's
yeah,
how I describe the man. There's nothing
yeah,
there. I mean, I'm sorry, Keir, if you're watching now, but hey, honey, you got to look something more like that you don't sort of flap around like a cardboard cutout. He's got to try and get a little bit of 3, 4 dimensions to him because he's just not there that you feel you could just punch a hole through him. So, and that's what I felt when I looked at his chart. I just thought, oh, I don't know who you are, and you're not using that energy of Uranus and Pluto and Venus on either side of your sun. You're worrying about it too much, and you've been given all this power, and you don't know how to use it, and you don't know what to do with it.
yep. He's almost like an over peacekeeper because having that Jupiter in opposition to Mars makes him really kind of like can we do this? Can't we all just get along? Like he's one of those guys.
Yeah.
And of course, as we know, conservatives and progressives really kind of dislike that. He actually has a very, what year was he born? Where was he? 63. Oh gosh. So the thing I do like about him though is his Saturn moon conjunct here in Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to make decisions for the greater good without the emotional baggage of it. Like he doesn't have to be right or wrong. He's going to make the best decision to it. I just don't want to see him um, so as much as they want to kind of say like, oh, he's not doing this and he's not whatever, he could be in the same position that Merrick Garland is in the United States. Like he's trying to be too fair and being like, well, until I see hard evidence, we're not going to go after this. But it kind of sounds like he's seen some hard evidence. So here's Elon Musk striking again, giving some
Well,
unfettered truth because he was trusted with it.
yeah.
And then it might be true, but he's using it for nefarious reasons.
The thing is, Keir Starmer was in charge of the public prosecutions service when Al Fayed was doing what he was doing, which was grooming and basically sexually assaulting all his female employees at Harrods.
Is this the Al Fayed connected to
Yes,
Lady Di?
it's the absolute same one. And it's
Really?
all just come out. And he cut and it is alleged that Sir Keir Starmer covered that up, didn't do anything about it. Because I think there were probably too many big names involved in it, and it would just be just such a,
So Al Fayed's like the British Diddy.
well, I mean, Al Fayed's dead now, but
Well, listen, bury him with the baby oil. But it's also, so it seems like there is just this consistent cycle of this abusive directive nature of things. And boy, oh boy, like what is that our cycle? Is our cycle like, do we not understand power and realize that like it has to come in these forms? We don't understand power and we don't understand like authenticity. So then we end up having these organizations be our front, and then that power is that protection for that bad behavior. How is that any different than what Trump and Musk are doing right now? Like they now have the shield of the Constitution that they don't have any intention of upholding. Elon Musk can't and shouldn't have anything to do with it. And then Trump is a convicted felon as of 10 a.m. on Monday morning. So there is this really awkwardness in our place in human existence that it's this repeatable theme. And now the UK is getting caught up in it. And of course, even the P. Diddy stuff over here, it's salacious because there's so many celebrities and sports people and comedians and whatever, connected to it. And I spoke to somebody that actually had been at one of those parties, and he goes, what you're hearing is tame compared to what happened. Like it was such a deprivation of the human soul. He's like, it's bad news. It's all bad news and it's everywhere. And then you get down to Epstein Island and you get down to all of this other stuff, but it's
there's an awful lot of stuff about that flying around in the background. And it's
back to the chart.
But in all seriousness, what the hell is going on, if I'm allowed to say that, when people are allowed to get away with grooming girls of 12 years old, for example, or 10, okay, and, becoming part of pedo rings, and also basically sexually harassing and assaulting women of vulnerable status because they are powerful people with a lot of money. And
so what you're saying is that money is becoming the root of all evil.
Maybe, but I think on a more sort of aesthetic status, this is something about the final death throes of Pluto leaving Capricorn, because it's about the divine masculine has to go through a whole metamorphosis to come out, and actually it can become an equal with the divine feminine that has been pushed down, pushed out, pushed away. And you've got to have the duality and the equality of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And at the moment, we've got the dark masculine that is desperately trying to hold on to control of the planet in any way, any form it can. And the divine feminine is just not getting a look in.
it's the I can't applaud that enough, and I can tell you even from my personal journey, needing to wrestle with that, because what they told me was if you're aggressive, you'll lead follower, get out of the way. If you're a man to provide, if you're a man, it led to burnout. It was bad. It was bad business for a whole host of reasons. It was misplaced aggressions. It was misplaced management. It was misplaced creativity. And for me, learning those lessons along the line from like a human perspective, coming out on the other side of this was the most remarkable growth I've ever seen in myself.
Mm,
And
mm,
I think as humans, as humanity, I think we got a shot, but it's
mm.
not going to be led by the Elon Musks of the world. It is not. We don't have masculine leaders right now. We don't. We
No,
just don't.
we don't have any leaders. We don't have any leaders anywhere. That's the
Well,
problem.
you do find them. You do find them, but they're disemboweled right now, because
Yeah.
what they're you have people like Liz Cheney. And by the way, I don't agree with all of her politics, but the fact that
Mm,
she stood up in front of him and said, "No, this is wrong." Mike
mm,
Pence, who basically said, "I have a job to do and I have to uphold the Constitution." 4 years ago, yesterday, people were
mm,
storming the Capitol of the United States. We lost our boundaries. They're
mm,
gone. They don't exist anymore.
mm,
And it's, well, you don't want to act like them. We're going to act like them. The revolution that's going to happen here in the United States, they're not going to see coming. It is going
mm,
to be in the form of an unplug. It is going to be in the form of a rebellion, of a thought process, of a we're not going to give you any more energy. It is going to be an energetic value. And just like that masculine and feminine divinities,
mm,
it is an energetic value for one another, which
mm.
is, but you see these I mean, Elon Musk is a super villain out of a Bond movie, for crying out loud. Okay, why don't we take a look at their chart together,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there's so
Trump
much
and
to it.
Musk are gonna do, yeah? Trump and
Well,
Musk, yeah?
well,
Or
I
Musk first of
hold
all.
on one second. I'll get to him here. Um, yeah, the
Okay.
Elon Musk. We weren't really sure which way we were going to go, but the Elon Musk edge to this. Now he's on the outer wheel,
Mm,
and you see that he is a Cancerian
mm,
sun. Elon is,
mm.
and you see also. Wish we had it. Yeah, his ascending is also Cancer. So having the sun and rising in conjunct, it's a wide conjunct, but it's still a conjunct. What do
Yeah.
you find in people that are both the same sun and rising together?
Mm. Well, it okay, what's coming to me is that he's actually quite good at putting on a kind of mask, a front, because
Mhm.
that sun is in the 12th house, his 12th house. So it's like um he keeps there's a big part of him that is kept hidden, that is kept private,
Mhm.
that we don't,
Mhm.
so that you see the ascendant, the Cancer ascendant, and it's all kind of like kind, nurturing. I'm such a nice guy, and I'm going to do all this, and I'm going to do really good things, and I'm going to kiss babies on their heads, and things like that, and I'm going to make everything so wonderful and give you all these lovely social media apps to play with. And, he's the all nurturing, all giving mother, you know.
Yeah.
And then we have Mercury in Cancer as well. So, he can talk very nurturingly and kindly and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, it's interesting that Donald Trump has also got Mercury in Cancer. So I guess this is a link they have where they can kind of smooth each other's egos. They can kind of feed each other's egos in a very nurturing and, oh, they're there and it's okay. And did the people say nasty things about you? Well, don't worry, let's talk about it and let's share our experiences and everything. But then you have to look at Elon Musk has a moon in Virgo, and he's a worry pot. He worries a lot about things. He
Oh,
gets
he can't get
he,
out of his own way. He worried about what people think of him.
yeah, he's not actually a very secure person.
Not at
And
all.
I actually think, and I can't remember where I picked this up from, but I think I just intuited it. I think he's on the spectrum. I would say he is ADHD and Asperger's.
Hell yeah.
I think he's,
Hell, hell
and
yeah.
and because of that, I think he's not actually. And this sounds well. I don't think he's sane enough to make sound decisions. And what is so worrying is I'm actually more worried about him than I would ever be about Trump, because I think Trump is being soothed by Mr. Musk and made to feel he's having his ego fed by Mr. Musk. And I think that if anything, the best thing Trump could do if he was going to do something good would be to cut all ties with Elon.
Well, I'm going to tell you why he's not going to, and I'm going to tell you why Elon bought this election for him. And by the way, he bought it through the algorithm. And people have, I'm seeing in the comments, I see Trish make the notion about like just not acknowledging these people, not feeding them. The time to do that was post January 6th, because for 4 years, Donald Trump stayed in the news. Donald Trump stayed relevant. Donald Trump stayed, it was from his court cases to his bombastic posts to his like, I can't wait to get back into office to free all my jail. Oh, I can't believe that we would ever do that and blah, 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 blah. Hold on a second. Elon Musk said, this guy's speaking my language, algorithms, internet manipulation. Donald
Mm,
Trump stayed relevant in the energy of the day by
mm,
being an absolute idiot, savant, jackass, bad guy. And we all had an opinion about it because our ego was right there the whole time.
mm,
Now, when I point this out to you, you will not be able to unsee it.
mm-hmm.
And by doing that, you're about to understand why Elon Musk is so dangerous. Are you ready?
Yeah, go on.
If you move the dial
Mm-hmm.
and you move the MC
Mm-hmm.
to full MC, in other words, if you were to line it up
Mm-hmm.
to his 28-degree Aries, that would,
Musk. You mean you move
I'm
Donald?
talking about Elon Musk.
Okay, his
That
end.
would put Algol in the 11th house, which means he is a demon to the masses.
Ah, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah.
He is an evil MNFer.
Mm,
He appeals to here, he is appealing to Trump's ego by
mm,
sitting in his next to his MC. He's
mm,
bringing
mm.
Algol to his MC. He's bringing him to his 10th house. He is stroking his ego, his popularity, his perception. He's
Got
also
it.
able to control it.
Yeah.
Elon might be the AC we've been looking for, everybody,
Mm,
because he is using technology. He is
yeah.
using communication. He is doing all of the exact same hallmarks that all of the other ACs have been.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? He's doing it in a way where you're not looking at him as if he is one. Guess
Mm,
what? It makes him one wholeheartedly. Because look at all of the countries he's trying to manipulate. And
mm,
by the way, Canada, we love you. We are not interested in having you be the 51st state. Like we want you to have your sovereignty. It's so funny. Here's this guy that ran on making sure that our borders are secure at the south to Mexico, but yet for some reason to the north we can dissolve them. Like he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. Oh, look, he's a Gemini.
mm,
But he's just creating confusion. He is literally talking out of both sides of his ass. And he's allowing us to and Elon's just like, that's your message, that's your message, that's your message.
mm.
The most egregious thing, the moment, do you remember when I was adamant that Trump was leaving the country?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm beginning to realize that what I really should have been saying is he's conspiring with the world.
Okay. Explain a bit more.
Well, because one of the problems that we weren't really facing back then is we kept focusing in on him being a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
we weren't focusing. We thought that the old way was the right way, which is you're going to get caught, you're going to find evidence, you're going to serve trial, you're going to be found convicted or freed or whatever. We thought that that was the basis of it. They moved the goalposts. Instead, he was like, I'm going to triangulate that problem so much by delay and retribution, blah, 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 so much that we're going to get the Saudis involved. We're going to get the Yemens involved. Now he's throwing in, Greenland, and Denmark into it. Denmark didn't do anything. We're going to throw Canada, the Panama Canal. Like the Panama Canal, like the history of the Panama Canal was so that then the world would have a gateway to the other side that would help the US directly and vicariously, because it would cut our products in half that were coming from Europe or from Asia to go
Yeah,
through there and get to our other coasts.
yeah.
That was the purpose of the Panama Canal. That's why we built it, but we said this is what's right. If you let us build it here, here's the deal. This guy wants to break it like it's a treaty.
Can I
We have
just
a history of that.
I'm going to interrupt you because I look at Steve Mayer's question. JD Vance wasn't smiling on January the 6th. Is it because he knows they cheated?
It's because the two of them are the same person, and it's just a matter. He's laying in wait,
Mm.
and he's smiling ear to ear because he also knows what he knows. He knows they got away with it. Yeah, that's a great way to say it.
Mm.
And for Kamala Harris to get up there and say what she said, because what was more important to her was that. I mean, the rest of the United States.
She had dignity.
Well, isn't there also something to be said about, like, in that moment, wouldn't it have been amazing if she stood up there and said, I'm going to do this with dignity. I'm also going to tell you something doesn't feel right to me, but my
Mm.
obligation to do the right thing is greater than
Mm.
my obligation to soil this out. I'm too close to it. I need other people to figure this out. But for the record, I don't necessarily agree with this, but I agree with our process, which is why I'm certifying today.
Mm.
That would have been amazing. But
Mm.
where do we go from here? Like, have we ever known the world to have somebody be so undercutting that they hid in plain sight?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, isn't that what we're doing right now? They're literally hiding in plain sight.
Hiding in plain sight. Mm.
Yeah, Christine's bringing up the comment that Trump turned around to Mike Snitchface there and basically said, "Hey, Mike, we got a secret, don't we? We don't need your vote anymore." Like, everything that he said was projecting the fact that he was lying and cheating. And I'm telling you, we are going to discover this. We are going to realize that he is the anti-president, just like we've had anti-popes. We're going to realize that we have had that this man has not only worked against us, we're going to have to undo it and figure out who we are, which is what his purpose is, right? Haven't we said this? I just don't want to see people get hurt. I am a big fan of no hurt.
No, absolutely. And, I think what is one thing I think we ought to bring up before we start to sort of wind down is Trump's rhetoric about the Middle East.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Because I live in the Mediterranean.
what did I say to you on Monday?
Leave.
Get the fuck out of there. I love you.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of there. I love you.
Yeah.
End of conversation.
Yeah.
And more so, it's why are they including all of these things? They're triangulating all of these things, just like Al Fayed. Yeah, but we institute all of these buts. And then it's but they did, when somebody, listen, I got clocked doing 75 in a 55. Like, whoa. Yeah, but I never been suspended before. I never gotten a ticket before. Yeah, but. So all along, I was part of the conditioning of the but scenario.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is, how do you circumvent this and go the other way? Well,
Mm-hmm.
then that gets grifted by somebody that really wants to manipulate. I just want to get out of the ticket with as little pain as possible. By the
Mm,
way, I went to the court date. I said I was wrong. I said, listen, here's what I have to say in my defense.
mm.
What we're seeing now is we're going to be doing something so egregious and such a money grab. The supervillain and the people that are in love with money this much don't realize that if you value money so much to take it from everybody else, it's no longer money. It is a possession. And therefore, the reason why money has value is because I have some and you have some. They're wholesale taking it away from an entire class. The homeless population has gone up 40% in the last 7 years. That is insane. We are obsessed with the problem so that then you are distracted from the solution. We have to change this.
Yeah.
We have to change this.
But a lot of the comments coming up as the problem is we don't have the right leaders in any sense, and I think this is the problem throughout the world in general, is that it's the wrong people, if you like, that go into politics, because it's the people that haven't worked out their narcissism or worked through their narcissism and egos, because the people that have worked through their egos and narcissism think, I'm not going to do that bloody job.
And listen, those
Oh, you've frozen. You've frozen.
like
You
times over
froze.
the years.
You froze.
We both did. We both
Oh,
did. We're good now, though.
because I was what I
And
was talking about.
and it's I've been asked to do these things, and I'm like, it's a lot of time commitment. Like, I want to be able to do it right, and as much as I would, older me wouldn't have had the experience to do it, and then or younger me didn't have the experience to do it, and younger me would have had the ego to do it, and now
Mm,
I'm like, now I have the wisdom to be like, I don't want that job. I can't spend the proper time to it to do it right yet, right? Um, the evolution that we're facing right now in a microcosm of the politics is, how are you going to hold yourself accountable? Because it started with the, can't you let me get away with this? Can't you hand me these things? Can't you let me go on this? And that is the crux of the problem, because that is what they're grifting on. They're grifting on the idea that you're going to be apathetic because you just want your own. You're
mm,
compromised because you did that one thing once upon a time. I may not have jumped off of Johnny Finnegan's roof and nothing but a Vikings helmet. Like, that wasn't a good look for me, right? Like, you jumping off a roof in a Vikings. So it was, yeah, I still get fan mail. So, but the idea of it is like, that wasn't something I was proud of. Like, when I look back on it, I was like, yeah, I was a crazy kid, and I dismiss it. But on the other side of it, I would love to tell you about how I would never do that today. I wouldn't
mm,
do it because I value my body differently now. I also value the idea of not wanting to be the crazy guy. I'd rather be the crazy guy and for my mind than
mm.
for some nut-headed stunt, otherwise. And I don't think that we have that as a collective anymore. We have to start abandoning ship the idea that the collective is going to save us, and we have to look at the individuality, which is the age of Aquarius.
What's this? Lucia is saying, I'm glad you articulate it so well. People outside of America mostly stunt with American choice. His words can be dangerous. For Penny, come live in Bali. I'm not quite sure
Look
if
at
I
this. Yeah, she wants you to come live in Bali.
Oh, come live in Bali.
See, the way the English language is, it could be a long I or a short I. I'm just kidding. I'm just busting balls. I read it the same way too. I'm like, you can get her live on her channel. I almost said that, and as you read it, I'm like, oh, she meant live. Um, and
Yeah,
and it's
more divine feminine and power as leaders, nurturing nature, healing the planet. Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because what I was thinking when you were talking about all the bad leadership,
Mhm.
maybe we're just getting it out of our system, guys. Maybe that if there's some solace in it, it's like, we're going to let this kind of run itself out. Listen, this is the time period of tumultuation in the New Testament. This
Mm.
is a time of tumultuation via Nostradamus. This is a time of tumultuation based on Baba Vaga's stuff. Um, Saint Malachi in his predictions of the Catholic Church. You also have Zoroastrian, which talks about the cycles of the change where you have to lose the old sun god to have the new sun god come in. So, in other words, Jesus represented the age of Pisces really well, and it had a great run. But
Mm.
now you're going to see it dismantled, just like when we move from the age of Aries to the age of Pisces, we had to burn the lamb. We had to sacrifice the lamb. We had to let it go.
Yeah.
What do we have to do to sacrifice the age of the fishes?
Mm.
Boil the seas?
Mm.
Think about it.
Yeah. And I think what is
Mm.
super interesting is that um, with all of this, and I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
bloody
Well,
hell.
take a moment.
God.
I'm mesmerizing. I know that.
I can't think. When I see you, Brandon, I can't think of anything. You just make me lost for words.
This is the shit that got us in trouble.
I know. I love it. No.
As it was said to me earlier today, our first 10 episodes was just a big giant toga party.
And
Can't
now
argue.
look at it. You're not eating bagels and I'm drinking tea. What can I say? But I was going
Mm-hmm.
to say something rather important about the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius. Yes, okay. So this is everything that we're going through. When you were talking, if we think of all the rhetoric that is coming out of various countries around the world, I still think this is the death throes of Pluto leaving Capricorn. It's the death throes of the old order. It's the old order breaking down. There's never a clean, oh, I've left Capricorn, I'm now in Aquarius. It bleeds into each other. And
Yeah.
until Pluto has moved well into Aquarius and we have got used to this different energy and we can establish a new kind of order, a new way of doing things. And I
Mm-hmm.
think integrity and a truth that Pluto wasn't able to transform or transition out of Capricorn, which is a
Yeah.
shame because Capricorn is such a stoic and stable sign. But I think that the age of Aquarius is exactly that. We have to move into this age where we are now going to be empowered by Pluto for our consciousness to wake up, for us to actually find out that we have the power. We don't have to give it to world leaders, that actually we could live in smaller communities
There
and
it
look
is.
after ourselves.
There it
We
is.
don't have a ruler of the world.
We have an incorrect assumption that the collective means everybody, the whole world, and everything else. We have to get our house clean. We have to get our personal house clean, our personal communities clean. In the future, and I'll be the predictor here. In the future, the federal government of most countries won't be effective at all. They will not be effective because of this behavior right now. It will be parochial, it will be state, it will be community. We will begin to set the standards from the ground up, whatever those standards might be. And we're going to be able to show that through the course of action. So maybe I will become a politician, but it's not being president. It will be in the local community to say, these are our standards. These are the things that we're going to walk into. And why we're also important to our contribution to it. And totally going to do an advertisement here. I have a conscious becoming class that I have a few spots left. If anybody's interested in hearing about it, I did a Q&A the other night. Send me a message. I'll send you the video so you can kind of see what it's about and what have you. But the goal of the work is using our gift, finding our uniqueness, and making the change in the world that we want to see. And it starts with ourselves. It
Mm,
starts with how we interact with people. And the age of Pisces is very codependent, very codependent. We rely on, that's why the emphasis of the church was marriage and family and so forth and so on.
mm,
We're not going to disrupt that. But what we're going to look at is have the age of Aquarius be when partnerships happen. Penny's got her stuff. I got my stuff. The Venn diagrams here. Here's the show you're watching now. Penny and Brandon are going to go this way, and we're going to get caught up, and we're going to be like, I got this going on over there. I got that going on over there. And then we're going to be like, ready to do a show? Here we go. and we found that comfort zone, and it took us a while to find that comfort zone, but even our relationship was the age of Aquarius. We were being shown how to be examples, and we had to talk about our ego. We had to say shit this to the ego. We had to say, other things to it, where we're becoming the example that we should be becoming, and we haven't even realized it. But when you go through the steps, here we
Yeah,
are.
yeah, it's true. That is actually very profound. Actually, thank you, Brandon. I like that. And I think it's also that we are, apart from that,
Yeah.
it's no good. My brain's not working very well tonight. These thoughts are coming to me and they're all coming so rapidly. I think what I want to say is actually thank you to everyone who is watching, because I think some of your comments that unfortunately we've not been able to refer to have been absolutely awesome and incredibly supportive of what
I'm
was.
seeing that.
I know what I was going to say. It was about free speech because, I'm really aware that free speech is something that is not readily available or free. And I do this other channel called Channeling with Penny and
Oh
Sarah.
yeah,
Okay. And we tried
it's good
to
stuff.
promote our 2025 predictions channeled by the blue light beings to Sarah and to myself, mostly to Sarah. We tried to promote it on in the US, and it keeps getting rejected. It won't be accepted because we talk about US politics.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that's a bad?
Well, I just think doesn't isn't that saying that nobody can listen to what everybody says, or it's taking away. It's like we haven't got the right to say what we feel or what we think, or why not? Why can't we say, this again, this wokeism thing? I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know whether I can say man, woman, boy, girl, he, him, they. I don't know
Or,
anymore what I'm allowed to say.
so listen, let me
I
say this.
shouldn't have to feel that that I'm not allowed to say what I want to say.
And by the way, that doesn't mean that you don't appreciate them as humans, because here's the thing: what you just got stopped on, and this is what we're getting stopped on. We're getting stopped on 0.05% of the population, the people that are going through this, and we're needing to change our entire process of what we say and how we approach pronouns because of that part of it. Well, how about if we just adopt a philosophy to treat everybody as we see them? And by the way, if I have a cousin of mine that is going through this, and they're trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
And I'm like, listen, I've always known you as one thing, and I'm going to get this wrong, and I'm going to say the other way. And when I say that, just politely correct me, right? Like let me take it on the chin till I get it, because my conditioning went another way. You want to go a different way? That's cool. I'm respecting it. Just don't take it as a disrespect. And they were like, that's all you had to say. Like, fair enough. You can get it wrong every time now. Like, we can make it a running joke if you want, but it was more about the idea, like, I'm not going to change my philosophy because I love you no matter what. I don't care about your meat suit. I care about, like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Are you a good person? Are you struggling? Can I help you? So forth and so on. And where is that a mutually beneficial relationship to me is, let me get it wrong and let me learn from you.
Yeah.
We don't have that patience. Instead, and by the way, the trans community has got to quiet like, take a fucking chill pill and listen to me for a second. We love you. You don't have to be offended. You don't have to make me your enemy. You don't have to. And by the way, same goes for whatever protective class this upsets.
Mm.
I appreciate women. I appreciate minorities. I appreciate people in trans. I appreciate all of that, because I am going to follow whatever golden rule I've learned, and I'm going to treat every person as an equal until you prove me otherwise.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me your story, though. Tell me your story about being a black woman, or a transgender person, or a single mother, or a boy that used to be a sports star and had to transition into being something different. Tell me your story. Be a fucking human, and don't get offended when I don't fully understand it. There's
Mm.
your opportunity to tell your story. I'm
Mm.
listening.
Mm. And
Makes
that is,
sense?
yeah, that makes total sense, because it's like I'm I notice, because obviously I am that little bit older than you, Brandon, and I'm in fact 69, and I will be 70 this year, and so don't say anything. I can read your mind. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Did
um,
he freeze? Wait, hold on a second. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear anything you just said.
but my point is that, and now I understand how my parents struggled, because the same thing happens with every generation, is
Sure.
that because uh, I'm uh, where I am in my life, I can't keep up with all the other things that are unfolding for other generations. I can't keep up with it. I'd have to
I,
be in school every day learning about every new thing that's coming in.
and while one side of the aisle will look at it as the degeneration of the fabric of society, I'm going to tell you it's the evolution of the society. But as your for whatever reason, if your life path puts you at the front edge of our evolutionary change because you are anti whatever the establishment is, whether it makes you gay, whether it's transition, whether it's popularity, whatever, socioeconomics, the the people that are already here aren't the enemy. And that's the reason why the JD Vances of the world are like, you know what? I don't really like being called the white man. Like, you just have to get over it. I'm just whatever. They're now grifting on the idea that you were so adamant that they were wrong. Their ego is bruised and therefore gives rise to this fascism idea, gives rise to all of this stuff.
Mm,
So, because we never came to a consensus to say, like, why do we need additional? And when I say this, I know people are affected by things like this, but you hear things like hate crime. There is nothing. I had a friend of mine who is gay, worked in theater, got attacked. Love him to death, knew him since high school, whatever. He exaggerated. He wanted to make sure that he was proving a point. He felt like he was carrying the banner for other gay men in theater. And when it came time for the trial, it was a settlement. And
mm,
part of the reason why it was a settlement was because they wanted to pursue a new hate crime, which would have doubled all of the other punishments that were attached to it. Well,
mm,
they were still going to be under trial. Like, there was still an assault. Like, the facts of the case are real. He just went there. He just said, and it made me feel like this. Like, he instituted an emotion. They had video camera, the whole 9 yards. The part of it that I ended up saying to him afterwards was, I supported you and I had a hard time supporting you. And then he said, why? He said, this is very interesting to me. Is this some of your like straight man biased? And I said, no. I said, you played the victim too well. And he went, what does that mean? And I said, you were running a script of victimhood.
mm,
You should have said, this happened to me and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to fight for this. But instead, you went to depths of saying how much it hurt you. And I'm not
mm,
taking away your pain. I'm not judging you for that. What I'm saying is I never saw you pull up the nose of the ship at any time. You were perfectly happy with being the victim into the ground,
mm,
which is why you're picking up the pieces now. This gave
mm,
you an opportunity to stand up for yourself, find resolve, but you took this opportunity and said, I want to prove a point. Your point was proven as soon as you went to the police and said, this just happened to me and it's wrong.
mm,
I'm like, I loved you in that moment. From then, you went sideways. You went into the ground. And that's a microcosm of why people like Stephen Miller are like, they're just taking away what is ours, because we weren't finding the middle ground ever. We had to be extreme to prove our point. And
mm,
you saw this happen in comedy. I mean, blue comedy was a quiet thing. You know, when Richard Pryor came out with his stuff, when Red Skeleton, you listen to Richard Pryor and Red Skeleton, who had an album come out in the same year where Richard Pryor was just dropping them left and right, and Red Skeleton was. And by the way, Red Skeleton, up until that point, had sold more comedy records than anybody else. He didn't swear once. When Richard Pryor came out, Red Skeleton stuff tanked. I think it was 1973. I could be wrong, but that was the turn of blue comedy. And then
Mm,
all of a sudden you had Filth and Flam and everything else. And I mean, like even Bill Cosby would like shade it, but he wouldn't go there. Eddie
mm,
Murphy comes out. Sam Kinison comes out. Like all of these guys that are just like, we're going to drop whatever we want to say and how we want to say it. It was a decay of a moralization that we didn't want to say, well, hold on a second. We shouldn't talk like that.
mm,
That's not our social norm. But that
mm,
fabric was attacked and we never got it back.
mm,
Just like our freedom of rights and our privacies and HIPAA and all these things have just been deteriorating. And
mm.
nobody has said, can we put in some common sense? I think that's what you're calling for here. Common sense.
There is no common sense. There is no kind of mutual respect for each other. We've become a me first society, and we're all so precious and sensitive. And oh, you've hurt my feelings. I was watching Monty Python over the Christmas period, if I'm allowed to say Christmas, because I can't even say Christmas, can I? Have to say the festivities, the holidays.
The
I,
Festivus for the rest of us. There will be grievances. All right.
I mean, and I was watching Monty Python and Life of Brian and The Holy Grail. And, both of these films would be banned now because I was sitting here with Sarah and we were sitting here absolutely dying with laughter. And not just that, but we were laughing because we knew this was so unwoke and it would be so banned.
You listen to the philosophies and the common sense of someone like John Cleese.
Yeah.
Even Billy Crystal, who's and by the way, Billy Crystal lost his home.
Mm,
That's one of the celebrities that got tagged. Um, they talk about how like, just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that I'm going to. And you start to kind of like see the counterculture within the new culture and the whatever. And that's where this whole kind of like Republican conservatism, America first thing came in, because it's like, we want to go back, make America great again is a subtext of saying, make America white again, because that's who was in charge. That's what that stuff was.
I mean,
What's
that's
wrong?
like, well, make America great again, but make America white again. I mean, that's the sort of thing we're not allowed to say, isn't it?
That's been his context, because he has surrounded himself with neocons that just want to fight until we get our way, and just be like, that's our only definition. Well, underneath all of this is we have an incredible amount of people in charge right now that are
Mm,
hurt and never did their own work.
mm. And
Never.
someone's just quoted a bit of Monty Python and Life of Brian. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Naturally, he's a Capricorn.
He's been a very naughty boy. Isn't that the best thing? We gotta have a Monty Python show.
And then
We gotta,
in the Monty Python and the Holy Grail, you've got "Hail the King, hail the King." How do you know he's the king? He's the only one not covered in shit.
well, of course, yeah, because the ones that get it on them, and maybe this is just an effort for them to make a better life to them, but what if we just handed them all their money? What if we just handed them everything and said, sorry, we can't afford anything anymore?
Mm,
Then they would sit there and go like, well, then we're just going to own your home. Okay, you can't kick us all out. Because let me
mm,
tell you something. When we hit the streets, all of us, we're going to say we're going to take our home back. Well, then we'll send out the brute squad. You are the brute squad. All of a sudden, we have this thing where what they don't realize is that there's unintended consequences with this draconian approach. You
mm,
will not. I've got news for you, everybody. The United States of America is a primarily socialist country with elements of capitalism that allow us to act and behave in a certain way that affects the socialist side of it, that
mm,
doesn't allow us to grow and actually have anything proper or good. Our
mm,
healthcare system, which I could have a whole show just on that, is
mm,
it's deranged. It's just not wrong. Did you know that per capita per person, both in Canada and in the United Kingdom, pay less per person overall in a socialist setting Their quality of care is significantly better than the United States, and it ain't even close. But we're free to choose our crappy doctor. We're free to choose which bureaucracy we want to pay for. It's insane. We're paying for bureaucracy. We're not paying for healthcare.
No.
That's the stuff that's coming to an end. And I think we should wrap up here. I
We
could
should
talk to you for days. I could
I'm
talk to you
thinking,
for days.
my God, I've probably said far too many things that I shouldn't have said, and YouTube will hate me and they'll take this video down.
You got to
You know,
quit worrying about that shit. Penny, I love you. You have listen. The stuff that we say is pale in comparison. You know
all
what?
right.
I'm going to send you a video of somebody that is basically just pure
Mm,
rhetoric, and none of their videos get taken down. What we say is respectful. We're at least respecting it.
mm.
Um, yeah, it's insane. But anyways,
I don't
I
know if
love you.
anyone's watched Katie Hopkins, but I really highly recommend Katie Hopkins. She's English, and she says everything that we daren't say, which is very funny.
And see how many videos of hers aren't taken down.
Mm,
And
true, but
and and by the way, look at your own energy with that. They're using fear.
mm,
You're complying. I love you.
I love you too, darling. You're
I
going to come. You're going to come and visit me in London.
I will come to see you in London. I have a
Okay,
passport.
I
When are you going
know.
to get there? When are you going to get there?
Well, I don't know. How about tomorrow?
Race you.
I'll get there first. Actually, you probably will.
Trish just said for entertainment purposes only. That's what we have to say.
For entertainment purposes only, absolutely, yeah. But
Listen,
listen,
listen.
I don't know whether you want to advertise anything because I just like to say one or two things
No, just
about
go to
what
my website and sign up. So then, if YouTube gets pulled, then I still have access to you. And the conscious becoming class is dynamic people that are ready to take the next level to help be the change that the world needs through our gifts, through our understanding, and with the community.
Okay. My
Um,
turn?
14 states and 4 countries. But anyways, go ahead.
Okay. So my news is, first of all, I will be back as usual on Sunday night for my live week ahead forecast, and that'll be at the same time that this streamed tonight. And I will have a look at Canada's birth chart with the current transits as well
Hmm.
as other things. And also, I've got an interview coming out. I think it's tonight, my time, which is me interviewing Sarah Sands Smith, hypnotherapist and channeler, on my channel, Astrology with Penny Dix. And that's an interesting interview. And I'm going to have Brandon as a guest on my channel, which is in conversation with Penny, in conversation with Brandon Ross. And that is going to be soon. And I'm also going to be having Alison Chester Lambert, who was my astrology teacher and mentor, talking about her famous book now, The Easy Way to Learn Astrology.
She didn't like my chart.
Didn't she? Oh, no, she didn't. Oh.
She's like, my
I
gosh,
just remembered what she said.
she's a bullish American. This is a bullish American. You keep him over the pond until he grows up. Remember? You were like, well, you clearly have to grow up a little bit before we do anything more. And I'm like, I don't disagree with that.
I just remember that. And let me think. Was there anything else I wanted to say? Oh, I don't know. I've got the full moon coming out and some other bits and pieces.
Yeah,
And
you
if
and
you
your
want to
full
have
moon.
a session with me, go to my website, pennydix.com. Send me an email.
Love you to
I
pieces, Mises.
love you.
And give you a heart, and then we're going to give each other the heart tap to remind one another that we care and love for one another, and to simply
And all
keep
of
going.
you. Yeah, we
Love
love
you
all of
too.
you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, guys.
And what did you say? Always leave them wanting more.
Oh, yeah.
All
So what do
right,
we do?
take care.
What do we do? What do we do for that?
I don't know.